I'll quickly go through his abridged profile. John Gia is a professional expert with over 20 years in-depth experience in health, safety, and environment in oil and gas industry, in both onshore and offshore. He has been working for several years for Shell in Nigeria and internationally at various arms of Shell worldwide. His experience in providing relevant HSE leadership and expertise at the very top levels across the industry, like in projects, production operations, asset integrity, turnaround and maintenance executions, logistics, real estate, among others. To his credit, it's also a track record of successfully leading HCE support and delivering complex and high-value projects. HSE in design, commissioning, startup, and steady-state operation without major incidents in all these projects he has delivered. As a Shell qualified assessor, assessed health, safety and security, environment, and social performance, HSSE and SP, competencies of several senior leaders in Shell locally and globally. Other areas include developing and delivering of asset integrity, process safety management, and HSE plans to meet set business goals, including integration of diverse specialist teams for the implementation and achievement of Goal 0. Other areas of expertise include risk assessments, development and implementation of HSE cases, environmental management, operational and process safety. Mr. John Gia has held several positions in Shell, including HSE Manager, Cameroon, Head Operational Safety and Emergency Response, Shell Gabon, Offshore Safety and Environmental Management, SNEPCO. After voluntarily and early retirement from Shell, he worked briefly as the General Manager HSE at Niger Delta Production Resources Limited. He is currently Deputy Vice President HSE at Heirs Oil and Gas Limited. He belongs to several professional organizations, some of which are ASSP, IOSH, NAPE, Air and Waste Management Association of USA. On behalf of Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, HS, this month's presenter. You're welcome. You can kindly share your slides and.
Thank you very much. You were a bit frozen at a point. I hope it's not my system that got frozen.
Okay, I got frozen at a point.
Yeah, yes. from my end. So I don't.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's me, but
so what I'm okay with you. You can go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Good evening. Sars and Mars, can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I really would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to share briefly on this topic. It's not going to be that detailed in terms of risk assessment, but we'll just take a little bit of time to look at what risk assessment is and how this can be applied in basic life and living. For me, everything about life is risk assessment. You want to cross the road. If you are a pedestrian and you quickly can judge the volume of traffic on the road and your plan to run across the road, and you have to take a decision. You are taking a decision because you have checked and decided that the traffic is too heavy, and therefore you will better look for where there's a pedestrian crossing, no matter how far it is. That decision is as a result of risk assessment. So I will quickly go through this presentation in the under this table of content. Look at the introduction, which I have almost finished. What do you think? I'll be presenting a couple of things and just trying to jot our minds and thinking. We'll look at things happen, incidents in oil and gas, a couple of them, safety fundamentals, as I call it, and then take an example of a simple risk assessment process. Because it's just 30 minutes, I will be as fast as I can. So by way of introduction, I will just ask you to think. What do you think about this image you have seen? And the coordinator or moderator has shared that video. It is quite telling, almost as close as this one here. When is enough enough? Why did they not know that they have put in enough for this donkey to carry? The next question is the fact that things happen. And here you have an image about our executive that is being kidnapped in a kidnap photo. And I pray that none of us will go through that at any time of our lives. On our left is a failed elevator 3-4. I'm having a bit of, just want to put off this. Okay, sorry about the distraction. An elevator failure. So what happened that this our friend didn't know that his elevator is going to fail? Did he check? I know many of us trust all elevators, and as soon as they are open, we step in. Personally, I have never stepped into any elevator without first hesitating and trying to check whether they have tested the maintenance records. So the next thing I quickly also want to show you is the safety fundamentals, what I call safety fundamentals, the fact that things happen. Now look at these pictures. Are these pictures familiar? Have you experienced any of this? Can you see this lady? And the diagrams that are out here. Have you been involved in a road rage? What made you to do that? If you thought about it a little bit, would you have done it? Now, the thinking about it, about asking yourself, what is the essence trying to pick a quarry on the road and get down to a point of trying to show rage and up to what we are seeing? And if you ask those questions and you decided not to come down, even though you have been abused, I know there was a day I was driving, getting to the office, and a taxi driver crossed me with a rickety vehicle. And after crossing me, he decided to use his hand and showed on his head like this, that I was the one that had a mental problem and not him. I just laughed. So these are basic questions. So in looking at incidents in the oil and gas, why did this incident happen? Why did they happen? That vehicle, that truck, that timber truck that went over that bridge, why did they do that? So the first picture on the left, on my own left, maybe on your right, I'm not sure, is that of Piper Alpha. 167 deaths were recorded when the rig Piper Alpha caught fire. And the simple reason why it caught fire was a leak from a PS flange, gas leak from that flange. And there was a challenge which was not known. And so they switched on the condensate pump. And once that happened, it went through, the safety valve could not withstand the pressure, and it gave way, leading to a gas leak under high pressure. At the end of the day, it ignited. Of course, several people died, like I mentioned, that 167 individuals died. The only people that survived were those that actually jumped from the rig into the water. Today, we talk about HSE cases, bow ties, and all the risk assessment processes and so on. It is as a result of the investigation that came out from this Piper Alpha incident. Again, if we look on the right, another 15 workers were killed at the Texas refinery fire incident. This is where there was, again, loss of control due to liquid actually coming out from the hydrocarbon isomerization unit. They were trying to restart. How do you call it? The shift worker didn't, he left. He didn't put proper records. There were not proper handover and so on. And once the gas and the liquid overflew and came down to the ground, there was a vehicle which was, somebody came in and parked the vehicle and left it on. And because it was on and the liquid, the vapor, the vehicle ignited the vapor and this exploded and several people were killed. A few more pictures on the left is what we know is normal on our roads as Nigerians. We see this happen every time where tankers that are carrying the products, diesel, petrol, having accidents. And many times we have read about individuals getting roasted with fire because of the fact that petrol got ignited and they all died and roasted. Now the question is, what made them to think that by going to scoop with containers that are able to catch, to spike at any time? What made them to do that? Why didn't they stay away? On your right again is another incident. This one occurred one of those years I was in charge of HSE in production. These guys were putting some wells on tests, and they did align at the manifolds. And during the process, there was gas that came into the closed drain. I'm not sure you can see my cursor, but if you can see, this open area was the closed drain. And it was constructed because of trying to upgrade the station for ISO 14001. And there was nothing in here apart from air that was in and pressure. And on top of this closed drain, they had fixed a, how do you call it? A relief valve. And that relief valve, the capacity and the pressure at which the relief valve was going to relieve was set at higher than the pressure that was in here in the closed drain, leading to the explosion and complete mangling of the piping system here. Nobody died, but it was such a lucky escape. Now, I just want to show you the consequences of accidents, incidents in the oil and gas. If you can quickly just take a look around the liabilities that oil and gas companies can face, or any other industry that is insured can face. Industry reputation, company reputation lost, stakeholder relationships being damaged, economic consequences, environmental and ecosystem damages. It is not good to have incidents at all. And that's why risk assessment is supposed to be part of daily life, no matter what kind of job you do, whether at home or any other. Please, can you mute, please? Please, if you are not, I'm the one presenting now, so please kindly mute everybody.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Safety fundamentals. I want to look at the NSChE, and since all of us are safety people, we know what the NSChE is. So why do a risk assessment? We do a risk assessment because in the world, if you look at this, the background is what are called work and organization, and around it is what are called the world. In the world, there are systems, hazards everywhere, and defenses that keep moving up and down. And we know that from the NSChE, at any time, any of the defenses that may have holes, some failures may happen. Your vehicle, the brakes are a defense. The horns are a defense. Your lights are part of the defense system, depending on when you are going to make use of them. And so if you are driving in the night, and for whatever reason your lights failed, and your brakes also fail, maybe you enter the ditch, one of the potholes, and you lost your brakes. And it therefore means that all those failures may have then aligned, creating a hole, and the hazard that would have been a crash may have happened. So that's why we do risk assessment. And what could be an undesirable outcome is possible individuals will die. Oh, yesterday I witnessed a terrible, terrible accident here in Port Harcourt, where a trailer fell right on a taxi. And the taxi, actually, most of the people who were in front of the taxi, you know, they always sit about 3 people, the driver and 2 in front. And then another taxi also hit them. It was awful. The undesirable consequence of following a trailer very closely and even not knowing when the trailer will fail, the brakes will fail, was there. So I just use that as an example. So what do I want to show us as simple process for risk assessment? Of course, again, we know what the improvement, safety improvement loop is, but we also know the fact of identifying, assessing and recording, and then, controlling and recovering. So up here, when you are assessing your risks, can you look at this guy using a magnifying glass to look at the flame properly so he can assess the risk? So he's identifying the risk. And what is he using? He's using a risk assessment matrix on the assess side of it. And once he has assessed and he knows what the risks are, he would like to put controls in place to make sure that the unmitigated risk that he has seen from his risk assessment matrix are clearly documented, potential documented barriers, assess where there may be failures, using historical data to be able to determine what the probability is and the potential eventually. And then recovery. So what then do you do about residual risk? I have already mentioned you are assessing the probability and then you are checking. Yeah, I have put controls in place, but is there any risk that is remaining after the barriers? What do I do with them? Because if you are going to look at the risk assessment matrix, this aspect of residual risk is not on the risk assessment matrix. So it then means that you are going to consciously apply other controls in order to take care of the residual risk. So let's go quickly to the risk assessment matrix. This is the one we use in my own organization. Other people have different types, but I won't go through that. The simple use of risk assessment matrix, let me just say this in a few minutes, is the fact that in your carrying out a risk assessment, and it really doesn't matter whether you are crossing the road, whether you are starting your car, or whether you are eating, as simple as eating, you want to ask yourself, the tool that I want to use, should I use a spoon or should I use a fork? And this is something that happens in seconds. What will be the effect if I use the wrong tool for eating on myself? That is the effect. So whatever you are going to do is, what will be the effect, like that vehicle that fell into the river because of the failed bridge? There was most likely an effect on people, effect on the asset, and the asset in this case is the vehicle itself. The effect on the environment is possible. The vehicle may have speed and the reputation, maybe the company that is responsible for logging operations. So this helps you to decide how your potential of the risk that you have analyzed is, and the kind of control you want to put in place. For me, this one is one of the best things that have happened to safety. Let me say it again. This bow tie is one of the best things that has happened in the safety profession. The fact that you are able to use this bow tie to analyze any risk at all. It doesn't matter whether you know the risk or you know the activity before, or whether there's activity you want to do, you know it before or not. This is an important, I don't know how to call it, Or let's call it the way it is, bow tie, the way it is. So you have a top event and the threats that could happen with the activity you are carrying out. What could be the threat? And what are the controls that you can put in place to prevent the top event from happening? And in this case, I usually would give, I mean, there are several examples, but I like to use the oil and gas example. We produce oil from the wells coming up under high pressure, and then you have subsurface valves and surface safety valves. Now, why are we having that? It's because there are threats that could occur that will make the crude for the loss of control. So our subsurface and surface safety valves become our barriers. Now, if they fail, we are going to get a top event. And that top event may be the speed that we didn't want to see at all because of its impact on the environment primarily. But if we have escalating factors also failing as a result of those failed barriers, for example, we have oil spill occurring and there is an ignition. Ignition becomes another escalating factor, and then what happens is what? Fire occurring. And if fire occurs, then we are going to have impact. Maybe the well head may be burnt or the flow line is burnt. And if there was explosion and there was somebody around the wellhead, maybe carrying out some maintenance activity, the individual himself may be killed. So that could be our top event. But then on the right of the bow tie, we then have consequences. And I have already mentioned the consequences, which could be the explosion, which could be the fire, and which could be individuals getting killed or the environment getting polluted. So what do we have on our right? We also have recovery measures. And those recovery measures could be things like shutdown systems, shutdown valves, alarm systems that can be warning the individuals or the operators, letting the operator know that there is something wrong somewhere, pressure detection systems that let the operator know that we have no pressure in the system, and automatic shutdown system on low pressure. So this becomes a very important tool for carrying out risk assessment. So I will quickly, in trying to round up, show us what then is the outcome of a basic risk assessment. I have already used several other examples to discuss the fact that if you are going to do a risk assessment, you will look at the activity you are carrying out. And it can be as simple as cooking. If you are going to cook, what are the steps involved in cooking? And what are the tools that you are going to use in cooking? The madam is going to probably use knife to peel. She's going to use knife to peel and to cut. She's going to turn on the cooking gas. She's going to use matches or a lighter to light the system. And therefore, what would be the hazards associated with doing all those activities? I'm not going to go through all that is here. I will just use this particular example to just discuss what I mean. So if that lady knows that she is going to use a knife that is very sharp, so what could go wrong? What are the hazards? The knife itself could be a hazard. So what could go wrong? It is possible that she puts her finger in a wrong place. And therefore, the knife is very sharp and she can actually easily be caught. That becomes a cut, becomes tough event. And then, what then would she have done in terms of barrier? And what could be the consequence? It's possible that cut will lead to a complete loss of finger and so on. Same thing that can happen. So how can she recover from it? Maybe she would have used who place her fingers in such a way that the fingers are not close, or she could use some other means to make sure that a form of protective system. So this is how you manage your risk assessment using your job hazard analysis process. For time, let me quickly also just mention. So what do you do with in carrying out risk assessment? All I have said is this: identify the existing hazards, identify the potential hazards. Yeah, right now, what are the hazards? But what is it that I have not seen? Then you prioritize the corrective action, because it's not everything you want to do to correct, to put in place controls that is worth doing. So you are going to subject those your corrective actions under the lab system. Do I need to spend all this money to get only a little? So you want to reduce and to eliminate the hazard. And we said that risk assessment has to be done in a group, because nobody can know the activity and all the risks that are involved completely and all alone. So why do we perform risk assessment? We want to reduce injuries, we want to reduce absenteeism, we want to increase productivity, we want to increase morale and protect employees. We want to assist in standard specific compliance. That's why we do that. Now, just a quick word about my own organization. For us, we make sure that all our contracts carry all the requirements that risk assessment is supposed to pass through. And we do this in daily security and even in relationships. Finally, this story that I like to tell, I heard about.
What do you say?
Hello. I was in Lagos when I heard about this story, and I will just tell it in 2 minutes. The need for risk assessment. The lady was driving on 3rd Mainland bridge, and there was a taxi driver, you know, the way they drive very, very hazardously. So he hit the woman, and the woman came out, grabbed him on the belt, and started calling the husband, honey, honey, and told the husband what happened. And the husband said she should hold him there, that he is coming. And the man was begging the woman and begging, and others joined to beg. She will not listen. And while the man was begging, he was dragging the woman towards the edge of the bridge. And in a twinkling of an eye, she pulled himself and the woman into the water. And that's how both of them got drowned and they died. So the point is, assuming there was a quick risk assessment, do I really need to do this? What is the consequence? What could happen? And once that kind of action by this man was taking place, this would have been quickly risk assessed and mitigation put in place to prevent the consequence that occurred. So it is important that we do risk assessment in all that concerns us, and it is daily. is 24 hours, and it can be actually within seconds. We can do that. Thank you very much for your attention, and this is it. Any questions, any contributions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We highly appreciate your talk, sharing your experience, your vast experience in the oil and gas industry. Then your ability to able to show us that this safety, it's something that it's not just oil and gas. It affects everybody. It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing that affects everybody. Thank you very much, sir, for the excellent presentation. So at this point, I will welcome questions. I will welcome questions. I will first of all quickly go through the chat and see if I have questions to read out. Of course, the questions I have it's more of people wanting the slides. We'll make arrangement for the slides. We'll send the slides sometime after the presentation. We'll make available the slides. We'll make available the slides. Then if I don't have questions from the chat now, if there are those that want to ask question, you want to speak, you just raise the icon of the hand, then I'll recognize you, then you ask your question. I can't. Any question?
It's very easy, I guess. So there's no question. I mean,
it appears maybe everybody grabs everything. That's why so far we've not had any question from the participants. Question time. Okay, I can see our immediate past president. Sir, you can unmute yourself. Our immediate past president, Engineer Onochi Anyoku. Sir, go ahead and unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you very much, Coordinator. And thank you to the highly experienced presenter. I enjoyed every bit of the presentation. My question is simple. I'm happy to see somebody of his experience really at the top of one of the indigenous oil and gas companies, burgeoning oil and gas companies in Nigeria. And that clearly shows that the company places significant premium on the issue of health and safety. However, I'm one of those who is concerned that as the majors are divesting from Nigeria, as we have all heard today, that Shell is put all the land and swamp assets on the market. Nigerians and indigenous operators are becoming dominant. I will want to know what the indigenous operators have, whether they have collectively agreed to come together to place the necessary premium on the issue of HSC, knowing how important it is. This, my concern is essentially driven by the recent happenings. We're not blind to the escalating safety incidents that is now dominant in the sector as the indigenous players continue to dominate. So I would like to know whether, and we have a very weak regulator, there's no doubt about it. There's not even any place you can go to see incident investigation, documented reports, and lessons learned in the sector, as is done all over the world. But the onus will be on the players today to lead. So my question once again is, how do they plan to do that so that we don't become really totally notorious as in our HSC areas in the country? Thank you.
Go ahead, sir, and respond, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the question, but it's a bit tricky. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's a bit tricky in the sense that I'm not aware of any meeting that the oil and gas group, the indigenous oil and gas groups have had in order to discuss safety standards. But I know that, like in my profile, I worked for Shell for about 22 years before I left. And when I left, I worked for one of the indigenous companies for just about 4 months. Then now working for Heirs Oil and Gas. Now Heirs Oil and Gas bought OMS 17 from Shell and Shell operated the OML for 6 months. And you may have seen in the newspapers that we took over 100% operating of the OML on the 1st of July. And being one of those that know very well that safety in the oil and gas industry must be top notch. Of course, I was hired to set the safety group together. And I can assure you that if you, even though it's a few months, but if you come to our own organization and you want to take a visit, we developed a system from the scratch, from a management system using the international standard, IOGP standard, ISO 14001, ISO 45001, and OSHA's requirements are the basis for which we developed our own management system, including the statutory requirements. And so this tells you that the indigenous oil companies are in serious business, and I can't talk for all of them because like you mentioned, I know you are talking about the rig incident offshore, was it early this year or late last year? And a couple of other incidents that are occurring. But I will say that we need time to also develop, like the multinationals and the international oil companies have. Unfortunately, when I say this, I'm not saying this not bearing in mind that you don't want anybody to be injured. You don't want anybody to to be environment to be impacted and so on. You don't want that as an operator. But at the same time, we also need a system that will have to grow and grow gradually. What I have seen these operators, the Nigerian operators doing is hiring several of those people that have worked with the other multinationals to manage and man critical aspects of the operations. So I will simply just said, to the best of my knowledge and where I'm involved, and what is available in terms of resources that my employers have put in place, money, people, equipment, I'm very sure that we are on the road to very, very high performance in meeting what we call Goal Zero. No harm to people, no harm to the environment, and asset integrity. I'm not sure whether I've answered enough, but this is just what I can say based on my specific example. We are not there, we will develop, and but we have a lot of opportunities for growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your response. At this point, I noticed that our national president, Engineer Saidu Muhammad, has joined us. Sir, you are highly welcome to this month's presentation. We appreciate your presence at this interaction. I will just give you time to say something, sir.
Thank you very much. Really, I mean, I struggled I needed to have been here since 5:30. For some reasons, one thing or the other, I couldn't be. But let me just seize the opportunity to thank all of you, especially the HSE team, for being consistently top level, really, in terms of their performance, in terms of calling for lectures of really world class. I just had only one question being answered by John, but I can assure you that from what I have heard, really, I'm sure that the material earlier presented have been upped. And John Gia, thank you very much for honoring us. And Mahmoud and your team, thank you very much, HSE. I also noticed that the IPP is on. IPP, thank you very much for being there all the time for the HSE team. I appreciate all what you've been doing, and we just need to keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I have one. I have question from Dr. Michael Oloyede. Michael Oloyede. Thanks for the wonderful presentation, sir. A quick question, sir. How can we stop people from scooping fuel from oil tankers involved in accidents, knowing full well the risk involved? That's one. The second one is the issue of people storing liquefied LPG, liquefied petroleum gas at homes and residential buildings. 3, the practice of cooking directly under gas cylinder, which pose serious risk of explosion. So, sir, this for you, sir.
We are all together, so I will need help. But let me quickly say something that I saw this some other country where there was the same tanker accident, and even people there were scooping oil, and I was shocked. I thought that it's only Nigerians that do that kind of thing. So how can we stop people? I think it's just a matter of awareness, number one. But for me, that would be like cutting a tree, killing a tree by cutting the branches. The point is, why do the downstream sector allow tankers that are not properly maintained and with the right spec and capacity and capability and competencies of the operators to drive on our roads with flammable liquids. So for me, that's the first thing to do. A strong regulation that will make sure that the kind of tankers go outside here. When I go to a place like US, a place like UK, and you are seeing trucks that are transporting liquids, they look like they are just clean, strong, standard, no emissions, no leaks. So for me, that's the first thing that must be taken care of. Number two, we need the government to make the roads right. If this happens, of course, we are not going to be having accidents that will lead to people coming to scoop products. The other one is poverty. Because I know if somebody who is having enough, at least the basic needs met, he won't go for that kind of thing. He will be conscious of what will happen to his life. So, and then this idea of it won't happen to me. It happened to them because they were not smart enough. They didn't stay far enough. They were not using this, so we will use our own system. So if we do a lot of awareness, I think this can help a bit. Let people see, for example, the safety moment that was used here, it was played twice. And as you look at it, you know, no, you can't try this. So let this thing be in the face of the individuals. Storing liquefied petroleum gas at home, again, the issue of supply. If supply is available at all times, and supply in terms of availability of products, supply, for example, where I'm living here now, for the past 1 week, in fact, since last week, we've never had light. Some people came around today to come and collect some money contributions so that we can go and fix the transformer. So I'm running generator. So people will definitely be storing this liquefied gas at home, either to cook and so on. And then the prices are changing. So you want to buy several of them so that by the time you go back tomorrow, you will be saving. So these are big challenges, but regulation, and making sure that people are able to do risk assessment to know that this is not correct. Quickly, let me try to finish because of your time. Personally, I had to go and buy these iron jerry cans that are sealable for me to be able to store petroleum products. Now, the last one, cooking directly on gas cylinders, the best practice is to put your gas cylinders outside and create that link from outside into the cooker. That's the best thing to do. So if you are going to be using these camp gas systems, it is better to make sure that you keep them in a place that is open, not in a lock-up place. And I think that if we do that, we will be able to avoid explosions that are due, and they are all part of risk assessment. So if you do a risk assessment like you are asking, and you say, well, if this goes wrong, you can have leaks because of the hoses can leak. So if you put them outside, then you are able to manage should there be anything at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, you don't need to unmute you keep yourself muted. I want to ask, I don't know if you are aware of the Process Safety Initiative of Nigeria being championed by Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers.
Well, I am not. I don't think I am because I'm not your member.
Okay. Okay.
If you allow me.
Okay. I think it encompasses not just only our members. They are bringing in key stakeholders to address some of the issues you've talked about: regulations. I think I will allow my team lead, Engineer Mahmood, will make a comment on that while he's giving thanks, a vote of thanks. Engineer Mahmood, over to you. Engineer Mahmoud Abubakar. Engineer Mahmoud Abubakar, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Sir, immediate past president, can you make a comment on the PSIN to educate the Heirs Oil and Gas?
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, John, once again for a brilliant presentation. Yes, NSChE is actually trying in the process of midwifing a process safety initiative, which is modeled after the Center for Process Safety of the United States. It is actually a stakeholder, company stakeholder body, essentially by companies that are in the hazardous sectors. We're happy to have you this evening, and definitely we shall be getting in touch with your company through you for to introduce the PSIN to your company. We currently have company members already. NNPC is one, NLNG is one, Flour Mills is another. It is essentially at the embryonic stage, so it is not too late to get the group Heirs Holding to lead at least the indigenous players into it. That's exactly part of why where my question came about, because we need to have a forum where we can ultimately share lessons learned, you know, so as to guide significantly smaller players to be able to institutionalize robust safety management systems that are really top leadership driven. So once again, thank you very much. We're happy to have you. You are one of the very few professionals in the country with the kind of knowledge that we really need in PSIN. So we crave your indulgence to, as soon as our team gets in touch, to see how we can convince your group to join. Thank you very much. I hope I covered it properly.
You did, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Sir, okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks very much. I didn't come to present on behalf of the company. I came as an individual, so I will respond as an individual. That I will be happy to make a contribution, but I also know that the organization may not hesitate, because the organization is in its embryonic stage. It started in January, and the company is owned by the Heirs Holdings Group. If you know, is one of the where Tony Elumelu is the chairman, and this company, our company is part of that group. And as you know, the chairman is in the forefront of growth, legal compliance, and so on. So I think they should be willing to have a discussion And for me, I can support the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. At this point, we'll be rounding up. Unfortunately, our lead, Engineer Mahmoud Abubakar, is in a very noisy place that he won't be in a position to give the vote of thanks. So I will do that on his behalf. Sir, we so much appreciate your time and which you have taken to share your vast experience with us. You shared experience and you're able to address the issues raised. We highly, highly appreciate your presence today. And I know that Engineer Simon Gondo, who is one of us here, who is not around, he was the one that actually gave us the contact to you. He was the one that made it happen today. It was through him we got in touch with you. Engineer Simon Gondo, we highly appreciate you linking us to our this month presenter, John Gia. Thank you very much. So to our president of our society, immediate past presidents, fellows of Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, on behalf of Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, NSChE, we highly appreciate everybody here for your time you've taken out to join us for this month's presentation. We hope you take your time out end of next month to join us for another presentation. Thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your remaining rest of weekend. Thank you, sirs and ma.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.